$1,000 inheritance on my half-brother's failed degrees. When I sued her, he vandalized my door car, and they had to sell her home to pay me back. Hey everyone. I'm posting here because I don't know where else to turn for unbiased opinions. I'm Alex, 18, and just graduated high school. The main people in this mess are my mother. Let's call her Carol, 40s, and my half-brother Leo, 22. My dad passed away from a sudden illness about 5 years ago when I was 13. He and my mom were married, and Leo is her son from a previous relationship. My dad adopted Leo legally when he was young, but they were never particularly close. Dad was a good man, a planner. He left behind a trust fund of $500,000 intended for both me and Leo to be managed by Carol. The idea was it would help with our education and getting started in life. I recently found out that might not be happening, at least not for me. I have a partial scholarship to a good university for engineering, which I'm due to start in the fall. It covers tuition, but not living expenses, books, or other costs. Ever since Dad died, Carol has always, and I mean always, put Leo first. It wasn't subtle. If Leo wanted something, he got it. If I wanted something, it was always a discussion about whether we could afford it or if I really needed it. Leo is her golden child. He's always been a bit aimless. He started college right after high school, full of big talk about becoming a doctor. Carol poured money into his pre-med courses. A year into it, he decided medicine was too grueling. Then he wanted to be an architect. More money was spent on new courses, supplies, a fancy laptop that lasted about 18 months. Then he decided his true calling was to be a video game designer again. Carol was all too happy to fund this new dream. New equipment, different software, different courses at a specialized and expensive private arts college. Each change of major meant wasted credits, new application fees, and more spending. I tried to talk to Carol about it a few times over the years, especially when I saw Leo getting expensive gadgets or going on trips with friends for inspiration while I was being told to save up my allowance for basic things. She'd always say Leo needed the support and that Dad would have wanted him to find his passion. She was also very secretive about the trust fund. Whenever I asked about it, even just to understand how it worked, she'd get defensive, saying it was being managed properly and I didn't need to worry. I had this nagging feeling things weren't right, especially seeing Leo's lifestyle. He drove a newer car, always had the latest phone, and didn't seem to worry about money at all, despite not having a job. A couple of weeks ago, after my graduation, I sat down with Carol to seriously discuss my college finances. I had my scholarship details, a budget for living expenses, books, and I wanted to know how to access my portion of the trust. I figured my share was $250,000, and I was planning to use a small part of it for my first year and invest the rest. That's when she dropped the bomb. She looked uncomfortable, fidgeted a bit, and then said, "Alex, honey, about the trust fund, there isn't really anything left." I was stunned. I asked her what she meant. She explained very calmly at first that Leo's education had been unexpectedly expensive. She said his various degree attempts, the specialized courses for game design, the cost of living near his campuses had moved twice, and the materials he needed had eaten through all of it. All $500,000. I couldn't believe it. I asked her how that was possible, how my share could be gone. She said it was a joint fund and she had to make decisions as the trustee for what was best. According to her, Leo really needed this chance to find himself, and his current path in game design was the one. She genuinely seemed to believe that spending the entire $500,000 on Leo's meandering academic journey was a reasonable use of the funds Dad left for both of us. I didn't yell at first. I was too shocked. I asked her if she understood that half of that money was legally mine. She got defensive. Then she said I was being difficult and unsupportive of Leo. She insisted that my scholarship meant I didn't need the money as much as Leo did. When I told her the scholarship didn't cover everything, and that the money was my inheritance from my father, not a bonus prize, she accused me of overreacting and being jealous of Leo's opportunities. The argument escalated. I told her this was theft, that she had stolen my father's legacy for me. Leo, who was home at the time, overheard and stormed in. He immediately took Carol's side, shouting that I was being selfish, that his career was important and he'd pay me back someday when he was a famous game designer. He said I was lucky. I was smart enough for a scholarship and should stop complaining. Carol then started crying, saying she did what she thought was best and that if I pursued this, if I tried to get my money back, it would ruin her. She said she might have to sell the house. The house Dad and she bought together. the house I grew up in. She claimed any legal action would put the house at stake. This was her big emotional blackmail card. I left the house and went to stay with a friend. I spent the next few days in a daze trying to process the betrayal. I started researching trust law and inheritance rights online. Everything I read suggested she had massively breached her fiduciary duty. It's now been about 3 weeks since that conversation. The tension is unbearable. I've only been back to the house a couple of times to get more of my things, and each time Carol either cries or tries to make me feel guilty. Leo is openly hostile. I haven't made any firm decisions yet, but I've come to the conclusion that I can't just let this go. This isn't just about the money. It's about the blatant disregard for my father's wishes and for my future. Carol is now alternating between tearful apologies without actually admitting wrongdoing and angry accusations. She's been calling relatives, painting me as greedy and ungrateful. Some of them are now calling me, telling me to forgive her and not break up the family over money, especially since I have the scholarship. Leo continues to be a piece of work, telling anyone who will listen that I'm just jealous he got to pursue his dreams. My mom's main leverage point is the house. She keeps saying if I sue, she'll lose it, and well, I'll be homeless, though I wouldn't be living there anyway. I don't know if the house is actually at stake or if she mismanaged other finances too, and the trust money was just one part of a larger problem, or if she's just saying that to manipulate me. I feel like I'm being backed into a corner. My father wanted to provide for me, and his provision has been squandered on my half-brother with my mother's full complicity. Wabda, if I consult a lawyer and sue my mother for my share of the inheritance, even with the possibility that it could lead to her having to sell the family home? Am I truly unsupportive, overreacting, and jealous for wanting what my father intended for me, especially when my scholarship doesn't cover all my university costs? Update 1. First off, thanks to everyone who commented on my original post. I received a lot of messages, and the overwhelming consensus was that I needed to talk to a lawyer. Many of you asked for clarifications, so we'll try to address the main ones. Dads will entrust details. A few people asked about the specifics. My dad's will stipulated that the $500,000 was to be placed in a trust with Carol as the sole trustee. The term stated it was for the education, maintenance, and general benefit of both his children Alex and Leo, to be divided substantially equally as we came of age, or required it for major educational expenses. There wasn't a strict disperse at 25 clause. It was more at the trustee's discretion for legitimate needs. The substantially equally part is what my argument hinges on. She was meant to act in both our interests. Leo's dream degrees, for those asking about Leo's expensive education, pre-med 1-year standard university tuition, books, lab fees. He lived at home for this architecture 1.5 years, switched to a different university with a well-known program, higher tuition, expensive architectural supplies, software, and he moved into a dorm, then an apartment closer to that campus. This is where costs started to balloon. Game design 2.5 years, and ongoing, supposedly enrolled in a private arts college. Notoriously expensive top-of-the-line computer VR, set up various software subscriptions, and he claimed he needed a better apartment for a creative environment. Carol apparently paid for several networking trips to game conventions too. I estimate conservatively, knowing the fees for that arts college, that his last 2 attempts could easily have blown through $200,000 each if you include inflated living expenses and all the tech. This doesn't even account for the first pre-med year. It's clear Carol never said no. Carol's financial situation: she works a mid-level admin job, decent but not enough to fund Leo's lifestyle and pay for the house and safe. The house has a mortgage, but Dad had paid a significant chunk of it down. It was clear Dad was the main financial planner. How she accessed the entire trust principal without any checks, I'm still finding out, but a sole trustee, she likely had broad powers. Reading your comments, and especially the ones urging me to see this as a legal issue and not just a family dispute, helped solidify my resolve. The scholarship is a red herring Carol is using to guilt me. My dad left me that money regardless of other opportunities one might earn. Her job as trustee wasn't to decide who needed it more based on her own favoritism, but to manage it responsibly for both beneficiaries. Spending it all on one, especially in such a frivolous way, is a clear breach. The idea that my father's hard-earned money was just frittered away on Leo's whims while I was expected to just be grateful for my scholarship became more and more outrageous the more I thought about it. I took the advice. I found a lawyer specializing in estate and trust litigation. Many of you asked how if I could afford this being an 18-year-old about to start college. The lawyer I found offers free initial consultations. After reviewing the details of Dad Will and the situation, he was confident in the strength of my case. He agreed to take it on a contingency fee basis. This means he only gets paid a percentage of the money recovered if we win. If we don't win, I don't owe him for his time, only for direct expenses like court filing fees, which he said we could manage as they came up or even defer some. This was the only way I could move forward. So I hired him. The first step was to send a formal letter of demand to Carol. The letter, drafted by my lawyer, outlines her obligations as trustee, the breach of those obligations, and demands a full accounting of the trust and the immediate restoration of my share within 30 days. It also states that failure to comply will result in legal proceedings to recover the funds, including seeking damages and legal costs. We sent it via registered mail, so she can't claim she didn't receive it. It was delivered 3 days ago. The reaction was predictable, but still shocking in its intensity. Carol called me the evening she got the letter. She was hysterical. She didn't just cry, she screamed. She called me a viper, ungrateful, heartless, and said I was trying to make her homeless and destitute. Then Leo got on the phone. He was even worse. He was yelling about how I was a greedy bastard and how this legal action would ruin his future career because now Carol couldn't support him anymore. He said he was going to be a millionaire game designer and would have spat on my $250,000. But now I ruined everything. He then threatened to make me regret this. He was vague, but aggressive. He finished by saying I was dead to him. The next day, my maternal aunt called me, clearly after getting an earful from Carol. She tried a softer approach, saying Carol was a mess and that I should show some compassion and drop the legal action. When I explained that Carol had spent my inheritance, my aunt said, "Oh, I'm sure she didn't mean to. She just got overwhelmed." Leo can be very persuasive. No accountability. So that's where we are. The demand letter is sent. The lines are drawn. No turning back now, I guess. My lawyer said to document every interaction with them from here on out. It's been about 4 months since I last updated and roughly 4.5 months since I found out about the inheritance and sent the legal letter. Fall semester has started, and I'm juggling my engineering classes with all this. The legal process is moving, but it's slow and ugly. As expected, Carol did not comply with the 30-day demand letter. She didn't provide an accounting nor did she restore any funds. Her only response was through a lawyer she hired, basically denying any wrongdoing and stating she acted in good faith and in the best interests of the beneficiaries, which is laughable given she spent everything on one. So my lawyer filed a petition in probate court to compel an accounting and to surcharge Carol for the misappropriated funds. We are now in the discovery phase. This means formally requesting documents, bank statements, receipts, anything related to the trust and her spending. Carol is fighting it every step of the way. Her lawyer is using every delaying tactic imaginable. They've missed deadlines for providing documents, given incomplete records, and objected to nearly every request we've made. It's incredibly frustrating. My lawyer says this is common when the defendant has a lot to hide. Leo is completely off the rails. He did have to make some changes. His allowance from Carol clearly dried up from what I've pieced together for mutual acquaintances. I'm not talking to anyone who directly sides with him. He had to give up his fancy apartment near the arts college because Carol couldn't pay the rent. He apparently back living with her. He also seems to have dropped out of the game design course or is failing because he no longer getting funds for the fees or the expensive software. He blames me for all of it very publicly on social media, calling me a thief who is destroying his dreams. His posts are unhinged, full of typos and rage. He even posted a picture of my dad saying Dad would be ashamed of me. That cut deep, but my lawyer advised me not to engage. Living expenses are tight. The scholarship is great for tuition, but rent, food, and books in a college town add up. I'm working a part-time campus job in the library, 15 hours a week. It helps, but I'm constantly aware that this struggle is a direct result of Carol's actions. The financial security Dad wanted for me is just gone. The stress is pretty immense. Trying to focus on demanding coursework while this legal battle grinds on. The most shocking new development came last month. Carol, through her lawyer, proposed a settlement. She offered $10,000 total to be paid in installments over 2 years. She claimed this was all she could afford and that I should take it as a sign of goodwill. My lawyer and I obviously rejected it immediately. It was insulting. This offer came after Wed shown her lawyer some of the damning bank statements. So it felt like a desperate low-ball attempt to make this go away cheaply. Following the rejected offer, Leo escalated. He showed up outside my apartment building one evening. I was coming back from a late study session. He was waiting by the entrance looking disheveled and angry. He started shouting at me, calling me names, saying I was ruining his life and that I'd pay for this. He got right up in my face, and for a moment I thought he was going to get physical. He was clenching his fists and practically spitting with rage. My neighbor happened to come out, then saw what was happening and yelled at Leo to leave me alone. Leo backed off, shouted a few more obscenities, and then stormed off. I was shaken. I reported the incident to the police, providing his name and what happened. They took a report, but said there wasn't much they could do unless he physically assaulted me. I've been much more careful about my surroundings since. My lawyer also sent a warning letter to Carol's lawyer about Leo's behavior, stating any further harassment would result in restraining order proceedings. Carol's strategy seems to be to play the victim and stonewall. She's telling relatives that I'm dragging her through an expensive legal process that's stressing her out and that I'm the one being unreasonable for not accepting her apology, which she never actually gave. For the financial misappropriation in the tiny settlement offer, the family is pretty much split. My dad's side of the family, who have reconnected with Mo since this started, are furious on my behalf and very supportive. Mom's side is mostly taking her side or staying out of it. The fight is far from over. My lawyer is now preparing a motion to compel Carol to provide the full detailed accounting we've requested and to sanction her for non-compliance. It feels like every step forward is a battle. Update 3: It's been another 8 months. So a full year has passed since I first posted here asking if I'd be the asshole for suing my mother. University is now into the summer break after my first year. That year was a trial by fire. Academically and personally, the legal battle has intensified significantly. After months of delays and obstructions from Carol and her lawyer, we finally had a hearing on our motion to compel a full accounting and for sanctions. The judge was not impressed with Carol's excuses. He ordered her to produce all requested financial documents pertaining to the trust within 15 days. The documents, when they finally arrived, were a mess, disorganized, incomplete in places. But what was there painted an even clearer picture of gross mismanagement and blatant favoritism? It wasn't just for Leo's tuition and approved educational expenses. There were records of her using trust funds for things like redecorating Leo's room at her house, paying off his credit card bills which were full of non-essential purchases, and even what looks like a down payment on a new car for him a couple of years ago. The total spent explicitly on or for Leo was well over $400,000. The remaining amount was nowhere to be found, likely absorbed into her own general household spending, which she also had no right to do with trust fund settlement negotiations went nowhere. After the judge's order, her lawyer approached us again. This time Carol offered $50,000, claiming she'd have to take a second mortgage on the house to pay it. My lawyer advised that given the strength of our evidence and the clear breach, we should aim for the full $250,000 plus interest and legal fees. We countered with a demand for $275,000 to cover some of the interest we calculated. They refused, so a trial date has been set for late fall. Carol's house is definitely at risk now, not just because of what she owes me, but because it's become clear she has very few other assets her defense seems to be shifting to. I didn't understand the complexities of being a trustee, which my lawyer says is not a valid defense for spending the money improperly. Leo's situation has further deteriorated. He's not in school. He doesn't have a job. He apparently spends most of his time at home, likely making Carol's life miserable too, though I have no sympathy for her. He continues his online tirades, but fewer people seem to be paying attention. He did, however, escalate his harassment in a more direct way. About 2 months ago, I came back to my apartment to find my front door vandalized. Someone had spray-painted money-grubbing thief in large red letters across it. There was also a long scratch down the side of my old car, which was parked on the street. There were no cameras in my apartment hallway and no witnesses. I knew it was Leo. I couldn't prove it, but the wording was straight from his social media posts. I filed another police report. This time they seemed a little more concerned due to the pattern, but still without proof, no action. I had to pay to get the door repainted and live with the scratch on my car. It was unsettling and made me feel unsafe in my own place. The biggest meltdown from Carol happened shortly after the trial date was set. She somehow got my university email address, probably from an old contact list, and sent me a long, rambling, abusive email. It was pages of her accusing me of being a monster, of trying to destroy her, of disrespecting my father's memory by tearing his family apart. She claimed she was having health problems because of the stress I was causing her. She detailed all the sacrifices she made for me as a child, basic parental duties mostly, and contrasted it with my current betrayal. The email was full of self-pity and blame with absolutely no acknowledgement of her actions with the trust fund. She ended it by saying if she lost the house it would be on my conscience forever, that she would never forgive me. Then about 3 weeks ago came Leos's most unhinged act. Carol called me sounding genuinely panicked for once. She said Leo had had a breakdown, apparently after another argument with her, probably about money or his lack of prospects. He had superficially cut his arm with a kitchen knife. Not life-threatening, but enough to draw blood and require stitches. He then told Carol it was my fault that I had driven him to this by taking away his future. Carol in her call to me didn't blame me directly for his actions. But there was an undercurrent of look what you've made happen. She wanted me to drop the lawsuit so Leo would magically get better. He was taken to the hospital, stitched up, and they put him on a mandatory psychiatric hold for 72 hours. My lawyer found out because Carol's lawyer tried to use this incident to request a postponement of the trial, citing Carol's emotional distress over her son's well-being. The judge denied the postponement. The betrayal now feels complete and multifaceted. It's not just the money, it's the character assassination, the emotional blackmail, the enabling of Leos's destructive behavior, and now this attempt to use his self-inflicted injury to manipulate the legal process. The fight continues. My lawyer is preparing for trial. I am preparing to testify. There's no turning back. And frankly, any lingering hope I had for any kind of normal relationship with them is long gone. It's just about recovering what's mine and holding Carol accountable for her actions. Update for it's been another 1.5 years, 2.5 years since this whole nightmare began when I asked my mom about my inheritance. I'm now halfway through my 3rd year of university. The legal battle is for the most part over. The trial happened last November. It lasted 3 days. Carol's defense was as weak in court as it was on paper. Her attempts to portray herself as a confused, overwhelmed widow who just misunderstood her duties fell flat when my lawyer presented the clear terms of the trust and the mountain of financial evidence showing systematic depletion of funds for Leo's benefit and other non-trust purposes. Carol cried on the stand. Leo was not called as a witness by her lawyer, probably because he would have been a liability. I had to testify. I spoke about my dad, his intentions as I understood them, and the conversation where Carol revealed the money was gone. I presented the facts as calmly as I could. Her lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive and money-hungry, bringing up my scholarship repeatedly. But my lawyer effectively countered that my scholarship was irrelevant to Carol's breach of fiduciary duty. The judge delivered his ruling about 6 weeks after the trial. I won. The judgment was in my favor for the full $250,000 in prejudgment interest, bringing the total to just over $280,000. Getting the money, however, has been another saga. Carol did not have the funds readily available. As we suspected, her main asset was the house. She refused to sell it. Initially, my lawyer had to initiate enforcement proceedings, which meant placing a lien on the house. For months, she tried everything to avoid selling. Applying for loans she couldn't get, appealing to family for a bailout. No one was willing or able to cover that amount. Leo, from what I heard, was furious. Not because his mom was in trouble, but because his comfortable life was truly over. The house was finally sold under duress about 4 months ago. After the mortgage was paid off and the legal costs associated with the sale were deducted, there was enough to cover about $220,000 of the judgment owed to me. So I didn't get the full amount. Carol was left with very little. My lawyer said we could pursue her for the remaining $60,000, but her income is low, and she has no other significant assets. It would be like getting blood from a stone, and the legal cost would just keep mounting for me. I decided to cut my losses and accept the $220,000 as the most I was likely to recover. So that's the end of the story. I got a significant portion of my inheritance back, but it came at a high price. Just scorched earth. I want to thank everyone on this forum who gave me advice and support in the beginning. It helped me find the strength to take that first step. This is the final update. There's nothing more to say about Carol or Leo. They made their choices and I made mine. Now I just need to focus on my own future, the one my dad would have wanted me to build.